We were 20 miles into the preserve when the first radio crackle cut through the cabin. I was the one holding the handheld, half tuning it, half ignoring it. Just static. A low, shifting hiss like someone whispering through burlap. Until, suddenly, it wasn't. "Do you copy?" The words came in faint. Male voice. Flat. Controlled. Like someone trying not to panic but about to. Erin looked up from the trail map spread across her lap. Was that Park Services? I didn't answer. Because I was already checking the frequency. Channel 6. Emergency Ranger Band. One that hadn't been used in over a decade. We'd only found it by accident, fiddling with the settings, trying to catch the weather report from base camp. There weren't supposed to be any active towers this far north. No stations. No repeater towers. Just mountains, trees, and 4 friends headed toward a ridge that hadn't seen traffic since the fire. I pressed the button. Copy that. Identify yourself. Silence. Then, again. If you can hear this, do not follow the markers. Something about his voice. Erin sat up straight. Kyle and Lydia in the back both went quiet. We hadn't told them about the weird markers we saw an hour ago, orange plastic nailed to the trees, clean and new, but pointing off the old trail. We joked that maybe the Rangers had finally updated the backwoods path. The voice cut back in. Louder now. They aren't what they seem. If you've seen a man in a Ranger's uniform, that's not me. That's not me. A chill sank into my spine like water. I looked at Erin. You recorded that, right? She nodded slowly, already rewinding the handheld's memory chip. She was the one who insisted on the model with playback. But when she hit play, we got nothing. Just hiss. Empty gray hiss. No voice. No message. As if it had never happened. And then, the voice came again, live. I'm sorry. I tried to stop him. But I'm gone now. That's when I noticed the smell. Not the forest. Not pine. Something acrid. Chemical. And closer than it should have been. Behind us, through the back window of the 4x4, just down the embankment where the tree line dipped, something moved between the shadows. And it was wearing a hat. A wide-brimmed ranger hat. We killed the engine. There was no discussion about it, just the silence between Erin and me stretching long enough for my hand to move on its own. The key turned. The old Jeep coughed once and fell quiet, and for a second, the only sound was the wind fingering through the trees outside. Erin leaned forward. There. I already saw him. Standing just 20 yards off, past the runoff ditch and where the moss was thickest, was a man in a forest ranger's uniform. His shape was wrong for how still he was. He didn't sway like someone standing on uneven ground. He just stood. No radio. No flashlight. No backpack. No expression. His head was cocked slightly toward us. Not like he was watching, but like he was listening. Waiting. Lydia leaned between the seats. Who's that? Kyle chuckled in the back. Our welcoming committee? I didn't correct them. I didn't say the part that had gone unsaid since the voice on the radio. This wasn't a ranger. Or at least, not anymore. I'll talk to him, I said, reaching for the door handle. Erin grabbed my wrist. No, you won't. Her voice was dead serious. Kyle was already half out of the back seat. Dude. It's a ranger. We probably drifted onto the wrong trailhead and... But Erin didn't let go of me. We don't follow the markers, she said, low, like a command. We don't split up. We don't speak unless he speaks first. Her eyes locked on mine. I'd never seen her like that before. Not scared, certain. Like something in her had already run this scenario, and this was the part where it went bad. The man in the uniform took one slow step forward. That's when I noticed his boots weren't sinking into the moss. I opened the door anyway. Cold air bit into me immediately, sharper than it had any right to be for midfall. My boots hit the ground hard, and I took maybe 3 steps before I stopped. He was closer than I thought. The ranger didn't speak. But his eyes, they were too still. Too glassy. And his shirt? It was wrong. There was a seam, barely visible, but definitely there, running up the side of his neck, disappearing into his collar. A line like stitching. Like a costume. I raised my hand. Hey. You need help? He blinked. Not naturally. Not human. It was like watching someone decide to blink. One eyelid. Then the other. Out of order. He opened his mouth. And I swear to God, it wasn't a voice that came out. It was static. Low. Crackling. Like a radio trying to find a channel through bone. And then, in the same voice we heard earlier, you should have turned back when the trail split. Behind me, I heard the Jeep door slam. Then tires crunching leaves. Aaron was yelling. But I couldn't move. Because the thing in front of me was still speaking. Only the words weren't his. They were someone else's. Found the real ranger. In pieces. My legs finally listened. I stumbled back, hit the ditch, and scrambled toward the Jeep. When I turned around, he was gone. Vanished. No movement. No sound. No broken twigs. Just empty woods. And behind where he stood? A new trail marker nailed to the tree. Glowing faintly red. We hadn't seen that one before. We didn't stop driving until the moon vanished behind cloud cover and the trail curved into itself. The ranger was gone. But we all knew that didn't mean he was gone. Kyle had his head turned, watching out the back, muttering under his breath like a prayer with no God behind it. Lydia kept saying the same thing on repeat. I didn't see him move. I didn't see him move. I didn't see. Aaron finally said it. We weren't the first ones to answer that call. She said it with a certainty I didn't question. The trees closed in tight on either side of us. We were following a trail, yes, but not one on any map. The ground had no tire marks, no signs of other vehicles, but it wasn't new either. Something had made this path. Something old and slow and sure. I wasn't sure if we were following it, or if it was leading us. The Jeep's GPS had stopped updating 20 minutes ago. No cell signal. No blue dot. Just the spinning wheel like it was searching for something that didn't exist anymore. We reached a clearing at the edge of a stream that reflected the moonlight in a way that looked like eyes staring back. That's where we found the other vehicle. Same make. Same model. But it was covered in moss. Rusted. It had been there. I got out slowly, flashlight in hand. The plates were too faded to read, but the back window had a sticker, one I recognized. An old Forest Service permit. From 2 years ago. Lydia stepped forward and brushed a layer of leaves off the driver's side. Inside the Jeep were 4 bodies. No decay. No smell. But all of them were slumped like they'd just fallen asleep with their eyes open. Each had a stitched line across their throat. Like they'd been cut, then sewn shut by someone who didn't care about hiding it. I turned my light away and felt the bile rise in my throat. Kyle spoke behind me. They answered it too. Erin was at the tree-line, eyes locked on something in the dark. She didn't say anything, but I could hear her breathing change. That's when we noticed the sound. Or the absence of it. No bugs. No frogs. No birds. Nothing. Just the wind and the slow, mechanical click of a radio tuning itself behind the tree-line. Then the voice again. Crackling. Familiar. Wrong. Roll call begins at dawn. We all turned. The forest was darker than it had any right to be. And in that blackness, deeper than it should have been, we saw movement. 4 shadows. Same size. Same posture. And behind them? A 5th. Taller. Head tilted just so. He lifted a hand. Like a wave. And we all ran. We didn't sleep. We didn't stop running. The sound of that voice, the ranger's voice, hung behind us like fog on our backs, crackling through the trees, gaining clarity the farther we tried to flee. Kyle, Aaron, Lydia, Marcus. Our names. Each one slow and exact, drawn out like he was reading from a list etched into something older than paper. I didn't ask how he knew our names. I just knew he shouldn't. Aaron kept stumbling, her breath turning sharp and panicked. Kyle had gone dead quiet. Lydia cried without making a sound. Somehow we made it back to the Jeep, the one we arrived in. But the keys were gone. They'd been in my pocket. I was sure of it. I dug my hands through dirt and leaves like an animal trying to bury itself. Nothing. That's when the radio flared to life again, this time in our own Jeep. Not static. Not a transmission. A tone. 4 long, slow beeps. Then silence. Then. Roll call begins at dawn. No voice this time. Just the sound of a pencil scratching paper. We barricaded the doors as best we could and turned off every light. Sat in the dark, watching the clock on Aaron's cracked phone tick closer to 6 a.m. No one spoke. No one dared. But the woods did. The trees groaned like they were listening. Shifting. I checked the rearview mirror just once, and that's when I saw them again. Not faces. Shape. Lined up at the edge of the trail. 4 figures. Just like the 4 in the moss-covered Jeep. Same clothes. Same posture. Waiting. Lydia started to whisper a prayer, and the figures turned, all at once, and stepped forward. And behind them, the 5th one emerged. The ranger. But this time, he wasn't wearing a badge. He wore my face. Dead-eyed. Expressionless. Unblinking. He raised his clipboard. And that's when the scratching sound started again. Not from the radio. From right outside the passenger window. Erin turned her flashlight on and pointed it through the fogged glass. A hand. Pale. Pressed against the outside. Fingers too long. Nails too clean. The hand pulled back slowly and left behind a word. Written backward in the condensation. Present. Lydia screamed. I turned the ignition out of desperation. The Jeep shouldn't have started. But it did. The figures stepped backward as if on cue. The ranger, the one with my face, tilted his head once more. And smiled. Just as the sun cracked the tree line. Dawn. But roll call didn't stop. The radio in the dash sparked again. Marcus. I turned it off. Pulled out of the clearing like the ground was on fire. We didn't speak the entire way down the mountain. Didn't breathe right until we hit pavement. At the first gas station, Kyle walked into the bathroom and vomited. Lydia collapsed into a chair and refused to move. Erin stared at me. Then at the forest. She whispered, we shouldn't have answered. And maybe she was right. Because 2 days later, when I turned on my car radio for the first time since, it was already tuned. No static. Just a single voice. Roll call begins at dawn. And I knew, somehow, that the ranger wasn't done. He wasn't done with me. Not yet.